The ice broke like a gunshot. Elena Marlowe froze mid-step on the Riverpoint Bridge, her breath misting in the December air. 11:47 p.m., the kind of cold that made your teeth ache. She'd been walking the same route home from Lou's Diner for 3 years, across the bridge, past the shuttered textile mill, up the hill, to her apartment building, with the broken intercom and the landlord, who never fixed anything. Her waitress apron was stiff with dried ketchup and fryer grease. Her sneakers, discount Reeboks from the outlet mall, left ones still stained with coffee from 3 months ago, were soaked through from slush. She'd been counting tips in her head, $43.50. Enough for groceries at the Stop and Shop, not enough for the electric bill. Then she heard it. Crack. Not ice shifting on the Riverpoint Dam, not a branch snapping under snow weight. The sound of something heavy hitting water, human weight heavy. Elena's pulse spiked. She sprinted to the railing, her cheap canvas coat flapping open. Below, 20 feet down, black water churned toward the dam intake. A small figure floated face down, arms limp, pulled fast by the current. No phone booth nearby. No cars on Route 7, just her and whoever was drowning. Her brother's face flashed in her mind. Danny, age 8, blue lips. Paramedics doing chest compressions on the community pool deck while she stood there useless, phone still in her hand. Not this time. Elena kicked off her sneakers, threw her coat onto the pavement, climbed the railing. She didn't pray, didn't calculate. Her body made the choice before her brain caught up. She jumped. The cold was a sledgehammer to the chest. Elena's lungs seized, her muscles locked. She kicked hard, fighting the current, and grabbed the kid's jacket, expensive North Face parka, still buoyant, the kind that cost more than her rent. She dragged him to the concrete embankment below the bridge, hauled him onto the frozen ledge. His lips were blue, no pulse, maybe 6 years old. Elena tilted his head back, started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her hands shook from cold, from adrenaline, from the muscle memory of doing this exact thing 11 years ago and failing. Water spilled from his mouth. She flipped him on his side, pounded his back. He coughed, gasped. His eyes fluttered open, gray eyes, unfocused, terrified. Cold, he whispered. So cold. I got you, baby. Stay with me. Elena wrapped her arms around him, sharing what little body heat she had left. Her vision blurred, hypothermia setting in fast. Sirens screamed in the distance. Red and blue lights strobed across the bridge. Paramedics descended with a stretcher and thermal blankets. Ma'am, did you see what happened? Who is this kid? Elena's teeth chattered so hard she could barely speak. I don't know. He was just in the water. I pulled him out. You saved his life. They loaded the boy into the ambulance. Elena watched the doors close. A second ambulance pulled up for her. She collapsed. Elena woke 16 hours later in Riverpoint General, IV in her arm. 3 heated blankets piled on top of her. The room smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee from the nurse's station. A heart monitor beeped steady beside her bed. A nurse, mid-50s, tired eyes, Dunkin' Donuts cup in hand, checked her vitals. The boy, Elena croaked. Where is he? Is he okay? The nurse frowned. Ma'am, you were brought in alone. There was no child with you. Elena's stomach dropped. What? No, there was a kid. I pulled him out. The paramedics took him. There's no record of that. You sure you didn't hit your head? Elena stared at her. Did she imagine it? Was she hallucinating from hypothermia? Then she reached for her coat. Soaked, ruined, draped over a chair. Inside the pocket, something stiff. A business card. Thick cardstock. Silver, embossed lettering. Magnus Hale, Dominion Technologies, private line 203-5550147. On the back, handwritten in black ink. You saved my son. I owe you everything. Call me. Elena's hands trembled. Not from cold this time. The events she'd just lived through felt impossible. Like something out of a movie, not real life. But the card was real. The ache in her chest from swallowing river water was real. The phantom cold still biting at her fingertips was real. In this world where karma moves in mysterious ways. And while these events are inspired by the twists of real life, every name and face here is a creation of narrative imagination. Elena stared at the card. The number was a direct line. No receptionist, no secretary, just him, whoever he was, whatever this was. Her thumb hovered over her phone. Would you call? She thought. If you risked your life for a stranger and woke up to silence, to a world that erased what you did, would you want answers? She took a breath and dialed. The line rang twice. A man's voice answered, low, controlled, exhausted. Ms. Marlowe, I hoped you'd call. And Elena's grip tightened on her phone. How do you know my name? The paramedics documented everything before I had them seal the records. I needed to find you. Why the secrecy? Why tell the hospital there was no kid? A long pause. Background noise. Expensive silence, the kind that comes from soundproofed walls and empty mansions. Because the people who put my son in that river are still out there, Magnus said. And if they know you saw them, you're in danger too. Elena's chest tightened. She'd saved a kid from drowning. Now she was a liability. I'd like to meet you, Magnus continued. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. A car will pick you up from your address. How do you know where I know everything I need to know, Ms. Marlowe. The question is whether you want to know the truth. He hung up. Elena stared at her phone. Her hands were still shaking, but not from cold anymore. Next morning, Elena was back at work. Lou's diner smelled like burnt bacon and industrial pine sol. The booths were held together with duct tape. The jukebox hadn't worked since 2011. The laminated menus were sticky with decades of syrup residue. She poured coffee for the regulars. Mike, the UPS guy, Mrs. Chen, who tipped in quarters, Ricky, who never tipped at all. Lou stood behind the counter, 68 years old, Vietnam vet, forearms covered in faded tattoos. He wiped down the coffee maker with a rag that had seen better decades. You look like hell, Marlowe. Rough night. You need a day off. Can't afford it. Lou grunted. That was the end of the conversation. That's how it worked here. You showed up, you did your job. You didn't complain. Elena refilled ketchup bottles, wiped down tables, counted coins from the tip jar. $18.75 for a 6-hour shift. This was her life. Predictable, small, safe. At 1:55 p.m., a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up outside her apartment building. A 3-story walk-up with peeling paint, a broken intercom, and a front door that didn't lock properly. The driver wore a suit that cost more than her annual rent. Elena climbed in wearing her cleanest jeans and a gray Target sweater. She felt like a kid, dressed for a funeral she didn't understand. The drive took 35 minutes. They passed through Riverpoint, boarded up storefronts, a Dollar General, the Sunoco station with the bulletproof glass, into Greenwich, where the houses had gates and the lawns looked like they were trimmed with scissors. The Hale estate looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. All glass and steel, automated gates, security cameras every 10 feet. Inside, Magnus Hale waited in a study with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Long Island Sound. Tall, mid-40s, charcoal suit with no tie, gray eyes, exhausted in a way money couldn't fix. He didn't smile. Miss Marlowe, thank you for coming. Where's the boy? Upstairs, resting. He's been asking about you. What happened to him? Why was he in that river? Magnus's jaw tightened. Someone I used to trust decided the best way to hurt me was through my son. They kidnapped him, threw him off the bridge to send a message. Jesus Christ. The police are involved, but quietly. These people have resources, lawyers, connections. If this goes public, they disappear. He explained. Aiden woke up in the hospital asking for the lady with the wet hair. The trauma psychologist said Aiden wouldn't speak to anyone else, wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep unless someone mentioned her. I'm not asking you to replace his mother. She died when he was 3. I'm asking you to be what he needs right now. Someone kind, someone who doesn't live in my world. Before Elena could answer, the study door opened. A man walked in without knocking, mid-40s, Brioni suit, Cartier cufflinks that caught the light, surgically perfect smile. The kind of handsome that came from dermatologists and personal trainers. Magnus, the board meeting's in 20. You planning to show up, or are you still playing Mr. Rogers with the help? Magnus's voice went ice cold. Get out, Silas. The man, Silas, looked at Elena with the expression someone might use when examining a stain on expensive carpet. This her? The diner girl? Christ, Magnus, if you needed a nanny, there are agencies. He turned to Elena. Sweetheart, whatever he's paying you, take it and run. This family's cursed. Elena stood. I'm not anyone's sweetheart, and I don't take orders from assholes in expensive suits. Silas's smile did not move, but his eyes went flat. Dead. Like a shark deciding whether to bite. Careful, honey. People who get too close to the Hales tend to drown. He left. His Italian leather shoes clicked on the marble floor. Predatory, calculated, the sound of a man who'd never been told no. The door clicked shut. Magnus exhaled slowly. That's Silas Ward, my former business partner, current nightmare. Elena's throat was dry. She'd just mouthed off to a billionaire. But something in Silas's eyes had made her skin crawl. Then she heard it, from upstairs. A child's voice, small and scared. Daddy, is the wet lady still here? Elena's chest tightened. She already knew her answer. Magnus led Elena upstairs to the east wing. Aiden's room was massive. Custom bookshelves, stocked with hardcover books still in their plastic wrap. A bed shaped like a race car. Toys organized by color and size like a showroom display. It felt sterile, like someone designed it from a Pinterest board without asking what the kid actually wanted. Aiden sat on the floor in Spider-Man pajamas, building a Lego tower, small for 6. Magnus's gray eyes and his late mother's dark curls. He looked up, saw Elena, dropped the Lego. You came back. Elena knelt down. Yeah, buddy, I came back. You jumped in the water, for me. You needed help, so I helped. Aiden stared at her for a long moment. Then he picked up a stuffed bear, brown, worn, missing one button eye, and handed it to her. This is Captain. He keeps me safe. He's a good bear. He talks to Daddy when I'm scared. Elena's instincts prickled. She examined the bear, felt something hard inside the stitching. Not stuffing, something electronic. Hey, Aiden, can I borrow Captain for a minute? I think he needs a checkup. Aiden nodded. Elena excused herself, took the bear into the hallway, used a nail file from her purse to carefully open the back seam. Inside, a coin-sized listening device. Active. A tiny green light blinking every 3 seconds. She showed Magnus. His face went white. Silas, how long has Aiden had this bear? 3 months. Silas gave it to him after a board meeting. Said it was a gift for my favorite nephew. Magnus called his head of security. Garrett, ex-Secret Service, built like a tank with a flat-top haircut and a permanent scowl. They swept the entire estate with RF detectors and thermal scanners. 4 more devices. In Aiden's nightlight. The smoke detector in Magnus's bedroom. The picture frame on the hallway table. Even inside the kitchen coffee maker. Silas had been listening to everything. The security team removed the bugs. Magnus asked Elena to stay the night. Aiden wouldn't sleep without her nearby. Elena sat in a guest room 3 doors down from Aiden's. The bed had more pillows than she owned total. The bathroom had heated floors and a shower with 6 different spray settings. A bathrobe hung on a hook, Egyptian cotton, softer than anything she'd ever touched. She couldn't sleep. Felt like an imposter. At 2:13 a.m., she heard crying. Elena walked to Aiden's room. He sat up in bed, shaking, tears streaming down his face. The bad men are in the water. They're pulling me down. Hey, look at me. Elena sat on the edge of his bed. You're safe. You're here. What if they come back? Then I'll jump in again. Every single time. She started humming. An old lullaby her mom used to sing. Hush, little baby. Off key, but it didn't matter. Aiden's breathing slowed. His eyes closed. Elena stayed until sunrise. Next morning, Elena found the kitchen, a chef's dream, stainless steel appliances and marble countertops. A private chef stood near the industrial stove, prepping ingredients for some elaborate breakfast. Elena ignored him. She made scrambled eggs the way she made them at Lou's. Butter in a pan, eggs beaten with a fork, salt and pepper, toast from the toaster, not some artisan bakery, orange juice from a carton. Aiden came downstairs, saw the plate, and smiled for the first time. You cook like a normal person. That's 'cause I am a normal person, kid. Magnus watched from the doorway. Something in his expression shifted, softened, like ice cracking. Then his phone rang. Private number. He answered on speaker. Magnus, heard you found some technical difficulties in the house. Shame about that. Silas's voice, smooth, mocking. Stay away from my son. Or what? You'll call the police? We both know how that ends. I own half the precinct. Elena snatched the phone. Listen, you smug bastard. You come near this kid again, and I'll make sure the only thing you own is a hospital bed. Silas laughed. The waitress has teeth. How charming. See you at the gala, Magnus. Don't forget to bring your new pet. He hung up. Elena realized what she just did. Threatened a billionaire. A man who planted surveillance devices in a child's bedroom. A man who owned cops. Magnus looked at her with something close to respect. No one's talked to Silas like that in 20 years. Elena's heart pounded. Her hands trembled, but she set the phone down like it was no big deal. Yeah, well, he's had it coming. Magnus smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his whole face. The Winter Gala is in 5 days. Every major investor on the East Coast will be there, including Silas. So he just issued a challenge. He wants you there, which means he's planning something. Elena's jaw set. Then we'd better plan something bigger. Elena explored the estate and found Rosa Delgado in the laundry room, crying over a pile of perfectly folded towels, late 50s, Guatemalan accent, hands roughened from 12 years of housekeeping work. Hey, you okay? Rosa wiped her eyes. I'm fine. Just my daughter. She got into NYU, full ride. But immigration says her visa extension was denied. She has 2 weeks to leave the country. That's bullshit. She was born here, wasn't she? No. We came when she was 2. I thought we had more time. Elena didn't offer empty sympathy. She asked questions, real ones. What type of visa? Did they file for a renewal? Who's her lawyer? Rosa's answers painted a clear picture: expensive lawyers, billing hours without results, bureaucratic runarounds, and a system designed to run out the clock. Elena pulled out her phone. Within 2 hours, she'd made 8 calls. Not to law firms, to people. Her old landlord's cousin worked at an immigration nonprofit in Hartford. A regular from Lou's Diner, Jerry, who always ordered the meatloaf special, was a paralegal at a legal aid clinic. The woman who cut Elena's hair knew someone at the ACLU. Elena connected Rosa to a pro bono legal team and found a loophole. Rosa's daughter qualified for a Dreamer provision if they filed the correct paperwork by Friday at 5 p.m. How did you... Rosa stared at her. Mr. Hale's lawyers said there was nothing they could do. Rich people's lawyers look for billable hours. My people look for solutions. Rosa hugged her, hard, the kind of hug that said thank you, in a language deeper than words. Magnus watched from the hallway. Later, he found Elena in the library. You helped Rosa. She needed help. My legal team said her daughter's case was hopeless. Elena looked up from the book she was pretending to read. Your legal team charges $800 an hour to say no. I called people who charge $0 to say let's try. Magnus was quiet for a long moment. He sat down across from her. You're not what I expected. Yeah, well, you're not as cold as you pretend to be. Over the next 3 days, Aiden started to heal. Small steps. He ate breakfast without prompting. He laughed at Elena's terrible knock-knock jokes. He asked to go outside for the first time since the kidnapping. Elena took him to the estate's lake. Aiden froze when he saw the water. His whole body went rigid, his breath coming in short gasps. I don't want to go near it. We don't have to. We can just sit here. Watch the ducks. They sat on the grass. Aiden picked at the blades, not looking at the water. Were you scared? In the river? Terrified. But you did it anyway. That's what brave is, buddy. Being scared and doing it anyway. Aiden picked up a pebble, stared at it for a long time. Then he threw it into the water, watched the ripples spread. It was a tiny victory, but it mattered. That evening, Magnus's assistant delivered a garment bag to Elena's room. Inside, a designer gown, Valentino, midnight blue silk, price tag still attached, $12,000. Elena stared at it like it was a bomb. She called Magnus. I can't wear this. It's just a dress. It costs more than I make in 6 months. If I spill something on it, I'll owe you my kidneys. Magnus almost smiled. She could hear it in his voice. Then don't spill anything. That night, Elena tried it on. It fit perfectly, tailored to measurements she didn't remember giving. She looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. A knock on the door. Aiden peeked in. You look like a princess. I look like I'm playing dress-up. Princesses are brave, like you. Elena's throat tightened. She knelt down, hugged him. You're pretty brave too, kid. The night before the gala, Elena checked on Aiden one last time. He was asleep. Captain the Bear, the new one, no bugs, tucked under his arm. She heard voices downstairs, Magnus and Garrett. Elena crept to the top of the stairs. Intercepted chatter, Garrett said. Silas has something planned for tomorrow night. What kind of something? The kind that ends with someone not coming home. Elena's blood went cold. She descended the stairs. Both men looked up. I heard that, Elena said. What's the plan? Magnus stood. The plan is you stay here with Aiden. Like hell. Elena, he issued a challenge. You said so yourself. If I don't show up, he wins. He gets to think I'm scared. You should be scared. Elena crossed her arms. I jumped into a frozen river twice. I'm done being scared. Garrett looked at Magnus. Magnus looked at Elena. Finally, Magnus nodded. Then we bring extra security, and you stay within 10 feet of me at all times. Elena met his eyes. Deal. The Winter Gala was held at Pier 27, a converted industrial space on the Hudson River, all glass walls and crystal chandeliers, black tie, champagne and flutes that cost more than Elena's monthly rent, a string quartet playing something classical she didn't recognize. Elena arrived with Magnus and Aiden. Every head turned, not because of Magnus, they expected him, because of her. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a wave. Who's that? The nanny? She's wearing Valentino. How much is he paying her? Elena's jaw tightened. She was used to being invisible, refilling coffee, clearing plates, existing in the background. This was worse, being seen, being judged. Aiden squeezed her hand. You look pretty, he whispered. Elena squeezed back. Thanks, buddy. Silas intercepted them near the bar. He wore a midnight black Tom Ford tuxedo. 2 board members flanked him. A journalist from the Wall Street Journal held a recorder. Magnus, so glad you could make it. And you brought everyone. He looked at Elena the way someone might examine week-old meat. Miss Marlowe, isn't it? The woman who saved Aiden. How civic-minded. Silas, Magnus started. No, I mean it. It's inspiring. A waitress from Riverpoint, now dining with Connecticut's elite. The American dream, right? Silas turned to the journalist. You should write about this. Billionaire's gratitude, charity case gets makeover. The journalist actually wrote it down. Elena's fists clenched. Magnus's hand moved to her elbow, steady, grounding. Elena smiled, sweet as antifreeze. Mr. Ward, I don't need a makeover, but you might want to check your cufflinks. The left one's fake. Cartier doesn't use brass clasps. Silas's smile froze. The board members glanced at his wrist. It was true. The left cufflink was a knockoff, probably a replacement he grabbed in a hurry after losing the original. Silas's face flushed red. Enjoy the evening, Magnus. All of you. He walked away, but his eyes promised violence. Elena and Magnus stepped onto the outdoor terrace for air. The Manhattan skyline glittered across the black water. The temperature had dropped to 28 degrees. Elena's breath misted. He's going to come after me now, isn't he? He was always going to. Why? I'm nobody. Magnus looked at her. That's exactly why. You're the one thing in my life he can't buy or break. In this world where power and corruption weave through the lives of the wealthy, and while this story is inspired by real acts of courage, all names and events have been fictionalized for narrative purposes. They returned inside. The crowd had thickened. Investors, tech executives, politicians, the kind of people who decided the world over cocktails. Elena looked around for Aiden. He'd been at the dessert table with Garrett 30 seconds ago. He was gone. Where's Aiden? Magnus scanned the room. He's with Garrett. No, he's not. Panic flooded Magnus's face. He grabbed his phone, called Garrett. Garrett's voice crackled through. East exit. Security cameras show 2 men in catering uniforms. They loaded something into a laundry cart, heading toward the pier. Elena's heart stopped. Silas. They sprinted toward the east exit. The crowd parted. Someone screamed. A champagne flute shattered on marble. Outside, a speedboat pulled away from the dock. 30 feet out, engine roaring. Aiden visible in the back seat, duct tape over his mouth, hands bound with zip ties. 2 men piloted the boat. Elena recognized one from the bridge. The same build, same military haircut. The first kidnapper. Elena didn't think. She ran. Her heels hit the dock. She kicked them off mid-stride, jumped onto a moored sailboat, using the railing as a springboard, then leaped again, a 6-foot gap over black water, and landed hard on the speedboat's stern. Her knees slammed into fiberglass. Pain shot through her kneecaps, blood warm against her skin. The kidnappers whirled around. What the? Elena grabbed a deck mop, propped against the gunwale, swung it like a baseball bat, and cracked it across the first kidnapper's wrist. The gun he'd been pulling clattered overboard. The second kidnapper lunged. Elena ducked, drove her elbow into his ribs. He grunted, stumbled back. She fought like someone raised by 3 older brothers in a Rust Belt town. Dirty, brutal, effective. No technique, just survival. Behind her, Magnus commandeered a second speedboat. Garrett drove. The engine screamed as they gave chase. The kidnapper's boat sped toward open harbor. The first kidnapper recovered, grabbed Aiden, and dragged him to the edge. Back off or the kid goes in. Elena froze. Aiden's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down his face. Then she saw it. A flare gun, clipped to the boat's emergency kit. Elena grabbed it. Aimed at the fuel canisters mounted near the engine. You heard him. We all die. The kidnapper hesitated. That's when Magnus's boat slammed into theirs. The impact threw everyone sideways. Elena pulled the trigger. The fuel canisters exploded. The fireball lit up the harbor. Debris rained down. Fiberglass shards, burning fuel, twisted metal. The speedboat split in half. Both kidnappers thrown into the water. Elena grabbed Aiden and jumped before the flames could reach them. The water was December cold. Again, her lungs seized. The $12,000 dress became a weight dragging her down. Aiden clung to her neck, coughing, choking, his small body shaking violently. I can't swim. I got you, just hold on. Elena kicked hard. One arm wrapped around Aiden, the other clawing at the water. Her muscles screamed. The cold stabbed like needles in her chest. Magnus didn't hesitate. He dove from his boat, Armani tuxedo, Italian leather shoes, everything, and swam toward them with powerful strokes. Behind him, Garrett screamed into a radio. We need Coast Guard now. Explosion at Pier 27. Multiple people in the water. Magnus reached them. His face was raw with fear. The kind of fear money couldn't fix, power couldn't stop. Let me take him. Elena's teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue, tasted blood. I'm not letting go. Yet, Elena, you're hypothermic. You'll drown. Then we all go together. Magnus wrapped an arm around both of them, kicked toward the pier. His breath came in ragged gasps. Even billionaires couldn't fight the Hudson in December. On the pier, Silas stood with a champagne flute, watching. A board member approached, pale, shaking. Silas, shouldn't we call what? It's a tragic accident. Gas leak, probably. These old boats, you know. Silas took a sip, savored it. The board member stared at him. There's a child in the water. And his father. And the help. Natural selection, wouldn't you say? The board member walked away, pulled out his phone, started recording. Silas stayed, watching, waiting for them to slip under. Searchlights pierced the darkness. A Coast Guard cutter roared up, wake churning white. Divers in dry suits jumped in. Strong hands grabbed Elena, Magnus, Aiden, pulled them onto the deck. Elena collapsed, shaking violently, her vision blurred. Paramedics wrapped thermal blankets around her, but the cold had burrowed deep into her bones. Aiden wouldn't let go of her. His small fingers dug into her arm. Magnus sat beside them, soaked, shaking, staring at his son like he was seeing him for the first time, or the last. "Sir, you need to get warm." Magnus ignored the paramedic, looked at Elena. "You could have died." Elena's voice was barely audible. "So could he." "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because no one did it for my brother." Magnus's face cracked. The armor shattered. For the first time, Elena saw the man behind the billions. Just a father, terrified and broken. Greenwich Hospital. Elena in the ER for the second time in 2 weeks. IV in her arm, mild hypothermia, shock, contusions on both knees. Aiden was stable. Mild hypothermia, traumatized, but alive. A detective arrived. NYPD, shield clipped to his belt, tired eyes, too many cases, not enough time. "Ms. Marlowe, can you identify the men on the boat?" "One of them was at the bridge, the first kidnapping. And you're sure Mr. Ward was involved?" "He was standing on the pier, watching us drown." The detective wrote something in his notebook. "That's not a crime, ma'am. We need evidence." Elena's frustration boiled over. "He bugged a 6-year-old's bedroom. He orchestrated 2 kidnappings. What more do you need?" "Proof that would hold up in court." The detective left. Elena wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, but her body was too exhausted to do anything but shake. Then Garrett appeared in the doorway. "The kidnappers didn't die, both in custody, and one of them is talking." He handed Elena his phone, a text message screenshot. "Silas Ward hired us. $500,000 to make the kid disappear. Permanently." Below it, a wire transfer receipt. "From a Cayman Islands account registered to SDU Enterprises, $500,000. Memo line, Hale problem, final solution." Elena looked up. "This is it. This is proof." Garrett's expression was grim. "Not enough for criminal charges. He'll claim the account was hacked, or his name was forged. Rich guys like him have lawyers who can explain away anything." Then what good is it?" "It's enough to destroy him another way." Elena's eyes narrowed. "How?" Garrett leaned in. "There's a board meeting tomorrow. Every investor, every media outlet. Hale Dominion quarterly earnings call, live stream to shareholders. If that screenshot gets leaked during the meeting..." Elena finished the thought. "Silas loses everything in front of everyone." She looked toward Aiden's room, the steady beep of his heart monitor audible through the wall. Proof he was alive, proof she hadn't failed this time, then back at Garrett. "Let's do it." Hale Dominion headquarters, 88th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lower Manhattan. The quarterly board meeting was always live-streamed to investors. Transparency policy Magnus implemented 5 years ago. Today, the boardroom was packed. 12 board members around a mahogany table. Legal counsel. Financial journalists from the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg. Cameras on tripods, and laptops open. The chat window already filling with shareholder questions. Silas sat at the head of the table, confident, hair perfectly styled, Hermes tie. He looked like a man who'd never lost anything that mattered. Magnus sat across from him, calm, coiled. Elena watched from the executive lounge with Garrett. Aiden was safe at the estate with Rosa and 2 armed security guards. Garrett's laptop showed the live stream. 12,000 viewers already. The number climbing. "You sure about this?" Garrett asked. "Once we hit send, there's no taking it back." Elena's jaw set. "He tried to kill a 6-year-old, twice, I'm sure." Garrett nodded, opened a separate window, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The meeting started with financial reports, Q4 earnings, revenue projections, stock performance. Silas spoke first, smooth, charming, dismissing concerns about recent security incidents. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to address the rumors. Yes, there was an unfortunate accident at the Winter Gala, but I assure you, Hale Dominion's operations remain unaffected. In fact, our Q4 earnings exceeded projections by 18%. Polite applause, nods of approval." Magnus stayed silent. Garrett pressed a button. The screenshot, the wire transfer, the kidnapper's confession, the memo line reading, "Hale problem, final solution," went out simultaneously to every journalist in the room, the live stream chat, the SEC anonymous tip line, Twitter, tagged, #Hale Dominion. Within 30 seconds, phones started buzzing. A Bloomberg reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Ward, I've just received documentation suggesting you financed the kidnapping of Aiden Hale." Care to comment? The room went silent. Silas's smile didn't falter, but his left eye twitched. I'm sorry, what? The reporter held up her phone. The screenshot filled the screen. A wire transfer. $500,000. From an offshore account registered to SW Enterprises. Paid to the men currently in custody for Aiden Hale's abduction. And Silas's lawyer, sitting beside him, $2,000 suit, panic in his eyes, jumped up. That account was clearly hacked. This is a smear campaign. A second reporter stood. Wall Street Journal. Mr. Ward, the transfer includes a memo line. Hale problem, final solution. Can you explain that? The room erupted. Board members shouting, phones ringing, the live stream chat exploding, comments scrolling faster than anyone could read. Silas stood, his face flushed red. This is absurd. Magnus, you orchestrated this. Magnus's voice cut through the chaos. Ice cold. I orchestrated nothing. You did this to yourself. A third reporter stood. Mr. Ward, is it true you installed surveillance devices in Aiden Hale's bedroom? Silas's face went white. Who told you? He realized his mistake immediately. He'd just confirmed it. The cameras were still rolling. 12,000 viewers became 15,000, then 20. The board chair, Margaret Chen, 72, steel gray hair, former federal judge, stood. This meeting is adjourned. Emergency session convenes in 1 hour. Mr. Ward, you are suspended pending investigation. You can't do that. I have controlling interest. You had controlling interest. Your shares are held in trust pending criminal investigation. That's what the bylaws say. Magnus wrote them. You signed them. Silas looked at Magnus. Pure hatred, the mask finally off. You planned this. No. I planned to build a company. You planned to destroy my family. One of us succeeded. Security appeared. 2 ex-Marines in suits. They escorted Silas toward the elevator. The journalists followed. Cameras rolling. Questions shouted. Mr. Ward, did you order the kidnapping? Will you resign from the board? Are you facing criminal charges? The elevator doors closed on Silas's face. Shock, rage, disbelief frozen in the moment before the steel doors cut him off from the world he used to own. Elena watched the live stream on Garrett's laptop. The chat window was on fire. He's done. Called it. Rich people always fall. Justice for Aiden. Garrett closed the laptop. It's done. He's finished. Elena's phone rang. Magnus. It's done. He's finished. Good. A pause. Thank you. I didn't do it for you. I know. That's why it matters. That night, Elena received a text from an unknown number. You took everything from me. Now I take everything from you. Below it, a photo. Her apartment building in Riverpoint. The front door circled in red marker. Elena's blood ran cold. Elena showed the text to Magnus and Garrett. Garrett traced the number. Burner phone purchased with cash at a bodega in Queens 2 hours ago. He's desperate, Garrett said. Desperate men do stupid things. Magnus's face was stone. We need to move Elena somewhere safe. I'm not hiding. Elena, he wants me scared. I'm done being scared. She agreed to let Garrett post security outside her Riverpoint apartment. 2 ex-Marines, armed, watching 24/7, but Elena stayed at the estate, with Aiden. Silas made his mistake at 3:47 a.m. He couldn't help himself. Couldn't stand the silence. Couldn't stand losing. He posted on Twitter from a verified account he'd forgotten to delete. Accusations without evidence. Character assassination from those who lack character. The truth will emerge. Within minutes, the replies flooded in. Your wire transfer is the evidence. You tried to kill a kid. It's rotten hell, you psychopath. But someone replied with the kidnapper's full confession, leaked by an anonymous source. Garrett had made sure it went viral. Another user posted the video from the board meeting. The moment Silas accidentally confirmed the surveillance devices. Already viewed 1.2 million times. Silas deleted the tweet, but screenshots live forever. FBI agents arrived at Silas's penthouse at 6:42 a.m. He answered the door in a fret silk robe, espresso in hand, still believing his lawyers would fix this. Still believing money could buy anything. Silas Ward, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, attempted murder, wire fraud, and violations of federal wiretapping statutes. Silas's lawyer, standing behind him in rumpled clothes, clearly pulled from sleep, went pale. You can't, we haven't even been contacted. The lead FBI agent held up a warrant. We have testimony from both kidnappers, financial records from 3 offshore accounts, surveillance footage from Pier 27, and a recording of you stating natural selection while watching a child drown. Mr. Ward, hands behind your back. Silas stared. For the first time in his life, his money meant nothing. He was handcuffed. Walked out of his building in his silk robe and bare feet. The press was already there. Someone had tipped them off. Cameras flashed like strobe lights. His face, unshaven, shocked, humiliated, became the front page of the New York Times. The Daily News ran a feature story that afternoon. Headline: Waitress who saved billionaire's son helps bring down corrupt exec. Elena's photo, taken at the hospital after the harbor rescue, thermal blanket around her shoulders, exhausted but defiant, was on the cover. The article quoted Magnus. Elena Marlowe acted when no one else would. Twice, she risked her life for my son. And when the system failed to protect him, she didn't give up. She's the definition of courage. Elena read it at Lou's diner during her break. Her co-workers crowded around, proud. Lou slapped the counter. You're famous, kid. I just wanted to help. That's why it matters. Mrs. Chen, the regular who tipped in quarters, left a $20 bill under her coffee cup, winked at Elena on her way out. Silas's arraignment was 3 days later. Federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. The judge set bail at $10 million. Silas couldn't make it. His assets were frozen pending the fraud investigation, his offshore accounts seized. His controlling shares in Hale Dominion sold to pay the forensic accountants still unraveling his crimes. He was remanded to the Metropolitan Correctional Center pending trial. In the courtroom gallery, Elena sat beside Magnus. Aiden was at home with Rosa, too young to see this, but old enough to know the bad man wouldn't hurt him anymore. Silas was led away, in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, ankles shackled. He glanced back, saw Elena. For the first time, his arrogance was gone, replaced by something Elena recognized: fear. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She just watched him disappear through the steel door. 1 week later, Elena received a letter, no return address, postmarked from MCC. Inside, a handwritten note from Silas. You won, but you'll never belong in his world. You're still just a waitress who got lucky. Elena read it twice. Then she tore it up and threw it in the kitchen trash. Aiden walked in, saw the torn paper. What was that? Nothing important, buddy. You want pancakes? Yeah. Elena pulled out the mixing bowl. Cracked eggs, measured flour. This, making breakfast for a kid who laughed again, who slept through the night, who threw rocks into the lake without fear, this was what mattered. Not Silas's bitterness, not his desperate need to wound her one last time. She'd won, not by becoming part of his world, by staying exactly who she was. Elena's life became unrecognizable. News vans parked outside her Riverpoint apartment for 3 days straight. Reporters knocked on her door at 6 a.m. Interview requests flooded her email. 60 Minutes, Good Morning America, The View, Ellen. She declined them all. But the story wouldn't die. Social media exploded. #OrdinaryHero, #Elena. The Waitress, #Billionaire's Bane. Strangers stopped her at the grocery store. Some thanked her, some asked for selfies. Some wanted money, claimed they were distant cousins, old friends, people she'd never met inventing connections. One woman asked Elena to invest in her essential oils business. Another asked if Magnus was single. Elena hated it. Hated being watched. Hated the assumptions. She went back to Lou's diner for a shift. Needed normal, needed the smell of burnt coffee and the sound of the jukebox that didn't work. Lou took one look at the news van parked across the street and locked the door. You're gonna bring the circus here, Marlowe. Go home. This is work. You need a break. Come back when you're not famous. Elena spent more time at the Hale estate. Aiden was healing. Slowly, he laughed more. Slept through most nights. Asked to go swimming in the heated pool, with Elena beside him, always. Magnus was different too, less guarded. He worked from home 3 days a week, ate breakfast with Aiden, read bedtime stories in voices that made the kid giggle. One evening, Elena found Magnus in the library reading Charlotte's Web to Aiden. You're good at this, she said from the doorway. Magnus looked up. Reading? I know the alphabet and everything. Elena smiled. He was using her line. Aiden fell asleep halfway through chapter 12. Magnus carried him upstairs, tucked him in. When he came back down, Elena was waiting. Magnus poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Macallan 18, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent. He handed one to Elena. I want you to stay. As Aiden's nanny? As part of his life, permanently. Elena set down the glass. Magnus, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to stay because he needs you. And he paused. I do too. Elena was quiet for a long time. Looked around the estate, the marble floors, the automated lights, the wealth that surrounded everything like armor. I don't belong here. Neither did I. I built this place as a fortress. You turned it into a home. I'm still a waitress from Riverpoint. No. And Magnus's voice was firm. You're the woman who saved my son. Twice. You're the woman who took down Silas Ward. You're the woman who taught me what courage actually looks like. Elena's throat tightened. What if I can't do this? What if I screw it up? Then we'll screw it up together. Elena went back to Riverpoint. One last time, she walked through Lou's diner. Sat in her usual booth, the one with the duct tape on the seat, the view of Route 7 through windows that never quite got clean. Lou brought her coffee without asking. Black, 2 sugars. You leaving for good? Maybe. You love that kid? Yeah. Then there's your answer. Elena drove to Maplewood Cemetery, found her brother's grave, knelt in the grass beside the headstone. Daniel James Marlowe, 1997 to 2008. Beloved son and brother. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Danny. Her voice cracked. But I saved him. And I think that's enough. She took off the silver locket, kissed it, laid it on the grave. For the first time in 11 years, she didn't feel the weight of guilt crushing her chest. 2 weeks later, Silas Ward was convicted. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping, attempted murder, wire fraud, federal wiretapping violations. 25 years, no parole. Elena didn't attend the sentencing. She was too busy teaching Aiden to ride a bike. 6 months later, late April, the Hale Estates garden was in full bloom. Tulips, daffodils, roses climbing the trellises, the kind of spring that made you forget winter ever existed. Elena sat on the porch steps reading a mystery novel. Aiden played on the lawn with Scout, a golden retriever puppy Elena brought home from the shelter last month. The dog was clumsy, enthusiastic, exactly what Aiden needed. Magnus stepped outside, not in a suit, jeans, a plain white t-shirt. He looked like a man, not a fortress. He carried 2 mugs of tea, handed one to Elena. You're terrible at relaxing. I'm reading. You've been on the same page for 20 minutes. Elena smiled, closed the book. Guilty. Aiden ran over, breathless, laughing. Scout chased him, barking, Elena, watch this! He threw a tennis ball. Scout retrieved it, dropped it at Aiden's feet. Aiden beamed with pride. Elena's throat tightened. This was the same boy who wouldn't speak for weeks, who had nightmares every night, who flinched at loud noises. Now he was playing. Can we go to the lake? I want to try the kayak. Magnus looked surprised. You sure? Elena will be with me. Magnus looked at Elena. She nodded. They walked to the estate's private lake. Aiden climbed into the kayak. Nervous, hands shaking, but determined. Elena paddled beside him in a second kayak. Magnus watched from the dock. Aiden dipped his paddle into the water, pushed forward. He was doing it. Look, Elena, I'm doing it. You're doing great, buddy. He paddled in circles, laughing every time he went off course. Scout barked from the shore, running back and forth. Magnus stood on the dock, hands in his pockets, and for the first time since his wife died, he looked at peace. That evening, after Aiden went to bed, Elena and Magnus sat on the porch. The sun set over Long Island Sound, pink and gold and orange bleeding across the sky. I spent my whole life teaching Aiden how to be strong, Magnus said quietly. But you taught him how to be safe. And you taught me too. Elena watched the sky change colors. My brother used to say, you don't measure a life by what you build. You measure it by who's still standing when the storm's over. She turned to Magnus. You're still standing. Aiden's still standing. That's all that matters. And you? Are you still standing, Elena? Elena smiled. Small, but real. Yeah. For the first time in a long time, I think I am. Magnus reached into his pocket, pulled out Elena's locket, the one she'd left on Danny's grave. How did you... Rosa told me where you went. I hope you don't mind. I had it repaired. He handed it to her. The locket had been professionally restored. The silver polished, the clasp fixed. On the back, new engraving, Danny and Aiden, the ones who taught you to fight. Elena's eyes welled up. Thank you. You don't have to carry guilt anymore, Elena. You saved him. You save people. That's who you are. She fastened the locket around her neck. For the first time, it didn't feel like a weight. It felt like a reminder of love, of survival, of purpose. They sat in comfortable silence. Scout curled up at their feet. The stars came out one by one. You know what's funny? Elena said. What? I jumped into that river to save a stranger, and somehow I saved myself too. Magnus looked at her. That's not funny. That's just true. 3 months later, Elena stood in the kitchen, making pancakes. Aiden sat at the counter doing homework. Scout slept under the table. Magnus walked in with the mail, handed Elena an envelope. Inside, a letter from the Riverpoint Town Council. They were renaming the bridge in recognition of extraordinary courage, in the belief that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Elena stared at it, read it 3 times. They want to do a ceremony, Magnus said. Next month. You don't have to go if... I'll go. She looked at Aiden, at Magnus, at the life she'd stumbled into by jumping off a bridge on a freezing December night. I'll go. The ceremony was small. Lou was there, Rosa, Mrs. Chen, Garrett, the paramedics who pulled Aiden from the water. The mayor gave a speech about heroism and community. Elena stood at the podium, Aiden holding her hand. I didn't jump into that river to become a hero, she said. I jumped because someone needed help. That's all. And I think that's enough. Because at the end of the day, we're not measured by what we own or what we build. We're measured by who we show up for when it matters most. Applause. Aiden squeezed her hand. On the drive home, Magnus said, "That was a good speech." I meant every word. I know. That night, Elena tucked Aiden into bed. He held Captain the Bear, the new one, the safe one. Elena? Yeah, buddy? Are you gonna stay forever? Elena brushed hair from his forehead. Yeah, I'm gonna stay forever. Good, because you're my family now. Elena's chest filled with warmth. You're my family too, kid. She turned off the light, closed the door halfway, the way he liked it. Downstairs, Magnus waited with 2 mugs of tea. They sat on the porch, watched the stars. Kindness doesn't need a reason, Elena said softly. And love doesn't need permission. It just shows up when you've finally stopped running from yourself. Magnus smiled. Is that the healing line? Yeah, I think it is.